All right, hey guys. Glad to be back here again. Another Tuesday, keeping my normal life schedule. Um, so today we're going to be starting with some shoulders. I really found after doing our shoulders last Tuesday that I felt a lot better, especially from sitting all the time. It really helped open up. And then we'll do a little bit of an ab workout before we pass over to Megan. So everyone come to your knees. So we're in a nice kneeling position. We're going to have our arms straight out from our shoulders. So sitting on our knees is beneficial because we get to make sure that we're tucking in our abs, we're not flaring out our ribs. And we want to make sure that our shoulders are away from our ears. We're going to roll our wrists, trying not to move our elbows. So trying to keep our arms nice and straight, and also thinking about keeping our arms not coming in this way or going out behind us. And we're going to roll our wrists the other way. And when you're rolling them, you really want to think about pulling the fist down towards the bottom of your arm. So really pulling it in towards you. And now try to do alternating directions. And the other way. And as your arms are getting a little bit more tired, think about making sure, checking in that your shoulders are down, that your arms are out and straight, and try to see where else you can build strength. Is it finding strength in your abs? Is it finding strength in your shoulder blades? And we're going to open up our wrists, have our hands flat, and start by pushing down towards the ground. A little quick movement. And then rotate your wrists so your palms are facing up towards the sky. Your thumbs are back, and we're pushing up. Again, thinking about keeping your shoulders away from your ears. And then turn your palms towards the camera. And we're pushing backwards and forwards. And again, trying to keep that open arm. So as we're pushing, we're not closing off in front of us. We're keeping nice open arms. That's the most adorable dog ever, and I love it. And then you're turning your palms back towards behind you. So your thumbs are facing down, and we're pushing that way. Again, find places where you have strength in your body. So your arms are staying at a nice 90 degrees, straight out from your shoulders. And we'll drop our arms and give our noodles a little bit of a shake. Okay. So next we're going to find some nice wall space. I'm going to change my camera angle a little bit so you can see my wall a bit better. And you might remember this from last week, but we're going to push into the wall. So you have your arms about shoulder width apart, a little bit of space in between your thumbs, and you're bending at about a 90 at your hip. And for your breath in, you're going to push into the wall. When you breathe out, you'll relax down between your shoulders. So breathing in, you push, and then breathing out, you let your shoulders sink down. And then when you breathe in again, you push back into the wall. And we're going to do 2 sets of 3 breaths in this position. Remembering to push in when you're breathing in, so getting that strength in your shoulders, and then letting it all relax down on your breath out. Awesome. All right. So we'll make our way back to our wall for the last thing on the wall that I remember. But we're going to do that 90-degree shoulders again. So make them a little bit taller this time. So our arm is at a 90-degree angle with our shoulder pressed against the wall. our inside leg facing forward so that we can square off as much as we can in our shoulders. And then you're lifting your elbow away from the wall. So you're doing this kind of motion with your elbow and your wrist staying in line with each other. So it might only be a small motion, but it's building that active flexibility in your shoulder. So we'll do it 5 times with each shoulder. Nice. Great job, guys. All right. I keep my laptop for this on a roller chair so I can move it around for all the different angles because I can't stay in one spot. So the next one is going to be from a high child pose. So your arms are at a nice 45-ish degree angle. You want wrists to be connected to your thighs so that you have that connection to keep it on. And you're lifting your hand up in front of you, stretching it nice and long, bringing it back, and bringing it back up that way. And you don't want to be opening out your wrist. You want to make sure that you're keeping that wrist to thigh connection, so that you're really getting into the rotation of just your shoulders, not your upper back. And we'll do 10 on each arm. Looks great, guys. It's almost like we're swimming, like we're in a pool. All right. All right, and the next one is in the same high child's pose position. We're going to do cat-cow from this spot. So it's not going to be as big a motion as a tabletop cat-cow. And when you're rolling in, so when you're lifting up with your shoulders, you want to think as if you have a really ripe avocado between your chin and your chest. You don't want to squish it. So you want to keep your head kind of in the same position so that you're really isolating your shoulders. You're opening up, and then you're pushing your hand to round out your back and looking slightly down, but still thinking about that space in between your chin and your chest. We'll do about 10 of these as well. Cool. All right, so now we're going, that was our shoulder warm up, you know. Now we're going to do a fun little series. So we're going to do 5 different moves, and then we're going to repeat the 5 moves then. So we'll do the set, and we'll repeat it again. Our bodies will know what we're doing, and it'll go a little bit more smoothly the second time around. So we're going to start with planks, but with a shoulder concentration. So you go into your plank position, but it's an ab plank position, so you can bend your knees. You're really thinking an angry cat in your shoulders. So you're pushing up in your shoulders, and we're going to rock back and forth 10 times. And the only thing that's really moving is your wrists and your ankles. So the rest of your body is in that secure spot. 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to roll over into a side plank. So rolling over one arm, lifting your hips up. You can either have your top leg stacked down as a kickstand, or you can raise it up. We'll hang out here for a little bit. And then roll back over. Find that plank spot, and we're going to do some shoulder shrugs. So the only thing moving are your shoulders. Your arms are nice and straight. You're lowering down and up. And it is really a small movement. Nine and 10. And we'll roll over to the other side for your side plank. And then you could kickstand, stack feet, or lift a leg. And you can grab some water before we do the next part. I need some water personally. All right. The next one, I think, is a crowd favorite. We're going to do some dead bugs. Pay a little love to our low abs. So it's always great because you get to lie on your back. Let's start off. And you're lifting your knees and tucking your tailbone so that you have a low back connection. Your low back is pressed down to the ground, and your knees are stacked over your hips. So you're keeping your knees at a 90. And then you're lowering one leg down and bring it back up. Trying to keep that low back connection. So you can have, we'll do 10 on each leg. You can have your hands down on the ground by your side. If you're finding that really easy, you can reach your arms up to the ceiling. And if that is also too easy, you can push into the opposite leg, and that gives you your whole abs. And don't forget to do both legs. Awesome. With all the dead bugs. So cute. Okay. The next one, if you have socks around or a towel or a cloth, it'll be really helpful with the next exercise. So these are plank tucks. So you go into your plank pose. If you have a slippery floor, it's like there's on a yoga mat. But you go into your plank, and you're dragging your toes into the tuck and pushing them back up. And so we'll do this about 10 times. All right, and then the last one for straddle sit-up. So you're lying down, flat on the ground, arms over your head. You come up into a sit-up, open your legs into a straddle, and then you come back in. Straddle, and lower down. And we'll do about 10. Layla, your dog is adorable. All right. I think we have time to do that again. So grab some water, and then we'll do it quickly one more time. This time we won't have to talk about what is in between. So we'll just be able to do them a bit quicker. All right. So we're going to start with our plank shoulders. First, rocking back and forth, then a side plank, and then doing those shoulder shrugs and side plank to the other side. And we're finding that finger tap planks, so we're bending our knees to allow us to get into our abs. And we're rocking back and forth over our shoulder, our wrist, trying to keep a stable shape. Eight, 9, and 10. And we'll roll over to the side plank. You can look up. You can kickstand, or you can keep stacked. And then we'll roll back down into that plank pose, and we'll do the shoulder shrugs. So again, your arms, your elbows are not bending. It's solely in your shoulders. 8, 9, and 10. And roll back over. And again, you're thinking about keeping your hips nice and up. Awesome. All right. The next one are dead bugs. So lie back down on the ground. But we can't just lie down here, unfortunately. So we'll have our legs at the next 90. Then we're lowering one leg down at a time and toe tapping. And again, you can have your hands down. You can have your hands up, reaching for the sky, or you can push into the opposite leg, the one that's not moving, for some added resistance. And don't forget to stretch your legs. I personally lost count. My apologies. I'm not good at counting to 10. And then when you're done that one, the next one was the plank tuck, where you're sliding your feet. So you go into a plank position on a slippery surface, hopefully, to make it a little bit nicer. And you're dragging your feet into that tuck position and pushing back out. And we'll finish off with 5 straddle sit-ups. So you're lying down. You come up into that boat both get out into a straddle, and you come back down. And we'll just do that. All right. Well, that's really all that I had to do today. So we're going to pass it off to Megan. She'll have some fun, exciting things for you too.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. If y'all just want to take a water, I know I need a bit of water. So take a little sip and then we'll get started. Okay, so for me, I find that with all my hip issues, the best thing that I found for me is instead of stretching, I was always really trying to stretch, but I noticed that after going to physio and everything, the most helpful thing for me was actually strengthening. So I'll give you a few of the exercises that I find are the most helpful for me. But then, so before I do any like hip big stretches or anything, I always do strengthening. So the first few I'm going to do with you, I got from Meg Weg. And so she's been really awesome and she helped me with that. So you start on your back, lying on your mat. So what you're going to do is you're going to put up one leg and you're going to pulse it back and forth towards your nose and back quickly 10 times. Okay? So do it on your own time. I usually flex my foot when I do it, but it's a very small movement. You're going to go back and forth. The whole purpose of this is to try not to move your hips. So you're not wiggling, you're trying to stay square. Then after you do 10 back and forth, you're going to go side to side, which is harder to try to keep your hips on the ground. So you do 10 side to side. I usually go slower for these ones. So already I'm feeling my hip flexor warming up. So now I'm going to do 10 little circles with leading with my heel. And you go whatever direction you want because we're going to reverse it afterwards. So again, the goal is to try not to lift your bum off the mat. So try to keep your hips down and then switch directions. And really try to keep your knees straight. Then you're going to do little kicks up and down for 10 times. Now for me, I find this one, I have to be really careful with my hips so that they don't pop. So I don't go very high or very low, but it's just to warm them up. Good, and when you do that, you can shake it out. Awesome, and I think everyone's done. So let's try it on the other side. So for me, it's my left now. I'm gonna start with my knees straight. I go back and forth. So I first usually notice my hamstrings really tight, but then by the end of it, it loosens up a little bit. And again, really try to keep your hips down in the floor and you're not lifting. And then when you're done now, go side to side. It's also hard on your abs for this one, which is nice. Good, and now you're going to start with your circles. So you go a little bit slower and you go whatever way you want first. Good, and then once you do 10 of those, you do 10 to the other side. Awesome, and once you finish those, you're going to do 10 kicks and try not to go too drastic. Just try to do a little warm up for your hip. Good, and when you're finished that, shake it out. Awesome. Okay, so the next one, you're gonna come onto your side. You can just be comfortable in whatever position you're in. So the important part here is my hips are square to the ceiling. So I'm not drooping back with one hip. They're both stacked on top of each other and they're facing the front. So my knees are together and my toes are together. And I'm gonna lift my knee without opening up my hip and close it. I'm gonna do that 10 times. It's a little clamshell. So you can control your speed. If you go slower, it's gonna be more of a burn. Good. Then the next one, so I'm pointing my toes and I lift it up into that clamshell position. Now I'm gonna lift so for me, I'm on my left side, so my right knee, the one that's the upper leg, I'm gonna lift those toes up so this leg is parallel to the floor, and I'm gonna bring my toes together and then lift them back parallel. So toes up, toes down. I'm gonna do that 10 times. And still try to keep your hips really square. So it's your knees going in and up. Then from here, I call it dancing my legs. So I'm gonna bring my knee all the way down to the floor. My toe follows and I'm gonna bring it all the way up. So you can kind of improvise however you wanna do this. I try to go like as smooth as I can, but you really feel it in your seat when you do this one. Awesome. And then the last one, my legs are turned in and I'm gonna go straight to the sky and then down and then up and down. So since my hips are turned parallel, I can't lift my legs super high, but the whole purpose is to try not to lift your hip. And I really feel it in my seat now. Good, and when you do 10 of those, I usually try to loosen up my seat a little bit because it's usually pretty tight. Awesome, and then come over to your other side. So you start with your clamshells. So hips square, and it's just your knee that's moving. Good, now I'm gonna keep my knee up and my toes come parallel, and then I drop my toes back down to touch. I do that one 10 times. So you're warming up your seat in this one. Try not to move my knee. Good. The next one is you're gonna do the dancing knee one. So I bring my knee down to the ground and then I bring it up and then my toes follow. And again, try not to open your hip. Good, and I'm gonna straighten that knee out. I'm gonna lift like a little kick, but try not to move your hip. Good. And once you're done those, you can loosen up your bum a little bit. Good, and you can get a drink of water if you need one. I see some people are still doing some stretches. That's awesome. Okay, so the next one, we're gonna stretch our splits, because I know for me, I find that splits, they're really important to have, but it's hard to stretch them when you have tight hips. So I'm gonna go through some simpler ways that you can just stretch them and feel a really big stretch, but you don't actually have to force them that much. So I'm up on my knees, and I'm gonna bring whatever leg is I do my better leg first, but you can do whatever leg you want. So for me, that's my right. I'm gonna tuck my bum under, so I'm tucking in my hips, and I have really tight hips, so right now I feel it a lot. But if you don't feel it, you can shift your weight forwards. And the whole purpose of this is to really tuck under the leg that's on the floor. So I'm really bringing that hip under, and I can control how deep I want the stretch. Good, and now from here, I'm gonna bring my hands down to the mat. I'm gonna stretch my front leg, and I'm really gonna try to push it into the ground with my hips square. So for me, my right leg's forward, I need to bring my right heel back a little bit to square off my hips, and I'm really gonna push my heel into the ground. And if you, like for me, I feel a stretch here, but if I wanna go a little bit deeper, I'm gonna stretch that front knee a lot and reach further. It's a really big hamstring stretch. So you can control how much you want. And if you are feeling very brave, you can try to flex that front foot, but I'm guessing your hamstrings are pretty tight right now. Good, and you're gonna hold for 5 more seconds. Good, so now I'm gonna swing I was just tucking in my hips, so I'm gonna loosen and open my seat up to like the sky, so tailbone out, and really open that, and you'll feel a big stretch in your hamstring, and hopefully it's a little bit looser now. So I'm gonna think about my tailbone going to the sky for 10 seconds. Good. From here, you're gonna go into wherever your happy split is. For me, since I just stretched my hamstrings and my hips, they should be pretty warm. Try to keep your hips as square as you can. And if you want to open them, try to only open them at the end. And we're going to hold our split for 30 seconds. So I'm really thinking about pulling up on my kneecaps and pushing my thighs down into the floor. So right now I have myself held up a little bit. So I think of the energy of my thigh going straight down, and that helps me get a little bit farther. So I'm still stretching my knees and pushing down, but sometimes that helps you release a little bit. And try to go into your full split for the last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Good, and you can shake out your hips a little bit. Okay, good. Now over to the other side. So we start on our knees. For me, it's my left leg now. I bring my left leg forward, and I'm gonna think about my right leg is the one on the ground. I'm gonna tuck my right hip under, and I'm gonna press forward a little bit until you feel a stretch. If you want to feel more, go deeper into it. And try to really keep your hips square, so your back hip doesn't want to be following behind. You want them squared off with each other. Good. Now my hands go to the mat. I'm going to stretch my front leg, and I'm going to try to pull my left leg back to square off my hips. I'm going to try to reach forward. So So I'm pressing that heel into my mat. Now we're going to try to bring our tailbone like to the back wall, and you're opening up, and you should feel a big stretch in your hamstring here. And if you want to flex your foot, you can. Good. Now you're going to go into your split. So I'm going to slide my front foot forward and my back leg back, but I'm going to try to really think about squaring off my hips here. And then at the end, you can open them, but just when you're getting into it, you really don't want to force it with open hips. So I'm going as far as I can with my hips square. And I'm thinking about pushing my front leg down into the ground. Good, and now you can go into your full split and hold for the last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And shake them out. Good, so I'm gonna do center splits, a little bit of strengthening you can do for these. So I find that my center is my hardest split hip-wise, but some people find it not so bad. But for this exercise, I'm not going into my full split. I'm going a little bit in from that. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna pull up on your knees as much as you can. I'm gonna start with my right leg, so I bring both hands to frame my right leg. And I'm gonna try to lift my right knee off the floor 5 times without moving my upper body too much. So you wanna be really tall in your back, and you're trying to lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And we switch. Awesome. And we lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. We're gonna go to our first leg again, and we're gonna try to lift and hold for 5 seconds, okay? So here we go. We're gonna lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. And other side, it does not have to be high. And lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And I usually do butterfly to shake my legs a little bit. Good. So one that I usually do after doing deep hip exercises, I lie on my back. It's kind of similar to what Sarah did earlier, but I'm going to bring my knees up, and I'm going to drop my heel down. I'm not going to straighten my knee all the way, and then bring it back up. So I drop my heel down and up, and really think about keeping your hips square. So I'm not letting my leg that's to the ground, my hip open at all. I'm keeping it square. You can point your toes or flex them. I usually put my hand on my hip so I can feel it to make sure it's not opening. Good, and then we switch when you've done 10 of those. Awesome. So if you want to get a drink when you finish that, you can, and then I'm going to do a little bit of back before we finish, just so we can kind of get a little bit of everything here today. Okay. I think everyone is good. So we're gonna lie on our bellies with your hands by your shoulders. And the first one that I'm gonna do is just pressing up into Cobra. And I'm just gonna warm up my back a little bit. So I usually twist my shoulders and keep them down. Good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back down. I'm gonna lift my hands off the ground and I'm gonna lift my shoulders. You can watch me the first time, but I lift my shoulders as high as I can. And then I'm gonna push my hands down and then stretch up the rest of the way. Okay? So you start on your belly with your hands lifted. You're gonna lift your shoulders as far as you can, up, 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 up. Then hands down and push the rest of the way. Good. And repeat. You're gonna do that 5 times at your own pace. Awesome. And when you finish those, you're gonna reverse it. So I'm gonna push up with my hands as far as I can, and then I'm gonna smoothly lower down. So you don't have to go slow, but you wanna just try to go smooth. So I'm gonna take my hands off and then lower down. You're gonna do 5 of those. Good, and when you finish that, you can go back into child's pose and kind of shake everything out. Awesome, so I hope you got a good hip and back stretch, and it was nice Zooming with all of you guys.